Good morning. This is the Veterans in Politics International candidate endorsement interviews. I am Mack Miller, candidate for Assembly District 5, moderating today. A little disclaimer, I am not a voting member of the panel and have no effect on the endorsements offered by Veterans in Politics International. Veterans in Politics International was established in 1992. The mission of the Veterans in Politics International, Inc. is to educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and intelligently vote for those candidates who would help create a better world to protect ourselves from our own governments in a culture of corruption and to be political voice for those and other groups who do not have one. For information, you can visit veteransinpolitics.org. We'd also like to thank our sponsors for today's event, Ron Q for Clark County Treasurer, Michael Broadway Real Estate, Real Water, and Lakeside Business Suites. We'd like to give a moment of silence by Steve Sanson for attorneys John Mamot and Jacob Hafter.
I have known John Mammoth and Jacob Hafter for many years, and both of these two fine Nevada attorneys have passed away recently, so we just wanted to give a 30-second moment of silence and respect to both of them.
Thank you. Now we'll have our invocation by George Chehade.
Stand, please. Lord, your word says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." Help us, God, to be a nation, a city, a state who reveres and trusts in you. Help us to always seek you for wisdom and guidance. Lord, we are ever so mindful of the ultimate sacrifices and devotion made by our men and women in uniform all over the world. Help us never to take for granted that and protect and guide them always. We thank you for organizations like Veterans in Politics that defend veterans' interests and fight corruption in the political arena in our community. We ask, Lord, for your blessings on today's interviews. We thank you for the candidates that have taken from their time to be here and participate. We ask you give them a wise mind and a caring heart to make a difference in their political ambitions. Father, please put the right people in these offices that will champion freedom and defend our Constitution. We pray in Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. If we'd all remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Also I'd like to introduce our host for today's event, Olga Ciesielski. And if the panel members would introduce themselves.
Test. Michael McDonald, VIPI Legislative Council, Family Civil Liberties Union, Restoring Freedom, and Reforming Family Courts.
Troy Warren, VIP member, and glad to be here today.
Steve Sanson Jr., U.S. Army. Leo Bletnitsky, U.S. Coast Guard and IT consultant here in town.
Lena, Ocasio, Air Force veteran and broker for real estate here in Las Vegas.
Robert Foust, U.S. Army VIPI member.
Thank you. With that, the panel needs to vote on authorizing the set for the endorsement interview. The candidate for State Assembly District 29, Stephen M. Silberkraus.
I vote yes.
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 No vote.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
You gotta
understand
do the
this.
panel
first.
Right.
Oh.
This was the vote.
Yes, I misunderstood.
Okay, to restate that, just so that everyone is clear, this vote is for the panel to authorize and allow Mr. Silberkraus to sit for the endorsement interview.
My misunderstanding.
Not the endorsement itself.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And there being no objections, Mr. Silberkraus, you will sit for this endorsement interview.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bell.
Again, this is Stephen M. Silberkraus for State Assembly District 29. Mr. Silberkraus, we'd like to offer you approximately 30 seconds or so to explain why you're running for this position and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Silberkraus. I'm the former state assemblyman from District 29, running to retake the seat. I lost last election by 212 votes. I've been a Henderson homeowner since 2001. Grew up in Southern California, realized that that wasn't where my future was going to lie, and I wanted to find a place where I could grow my life and my family. Came up here while I was still in college and found that on a pizza chef, part-time in college salary, I was able to qualify for a loan for a home up here. And I still have that house today. My dad actually lives in it off of Gibson and Horizon Ridge. Slowly but surely, I found myself making the move from Southern California here full-time, and I'm a proud full-time Nevada resident. Got my wife, my son, who was born in Centennial Hills Hospital, just over here. Nevada's got such amazing opportunities for people, especially compared to Los Angeles, where I grew up, where you just don't have the opportunities to move forward in your life like you used to. And one of the things I'm really proud of is the ability to do that here and to help other people have the same ability.
I'd like to start with the first question from the panel.
Hi, Michael McDonald, for the record. I wanted to ask a question. If elected to Assembly, would you support family and criminal law reform legislation, such as equal parenting and reforms for bail amounts, for helping to change some of the antiquated laws that are on our books that are getting people thrown in jail and stuff like that? So would you support equal parenting and criminal justice reform?
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I know we were speaking on this just a little bit earlier. I'd have to obviously see the legislation before I could tell you if I support that particular bill. But in the broad premise, absolutely. I think we need to make sure that everybody's rights are protected and that everybody gets a fair shake when they're, having one of the worst days of their life.
Troy Warren. Silberkraus?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you said you're from California, so I'm a native. One of the things that I see happening is people moving here from California because they want to get out of California, yet they want to change the law so it's like California. I.e., we have a certain individual running for governor right now who wants to ban, I can't believe I'm saying this word, assault weapons, which we know is a joke. The Second Amendment's pretty clear. I would like to know exactly where you stand on that, and would you vote for legislation to ban any kind of weapons?
I think I've got a clear voting record on the subject. I'm a strong advocate for Second Amendment rights and wouldn't support punishing legal gun owners for the crimes of people who aren't.
Good morning, thank you for being here. Steve Sanson, U.S. Army. I just wanted to ask, in your district, what do you think is probably the number one reason for you to want to run for candidacy? What do you think is the biggest issue that you'd like to see make any change whatsoever?
Well, there's definitely a few issues in District 29, but one of the biggest ones is education. We've seen we're fortunate enough to have some of the best schools in the area, but that doesn't stop them from having major overcrowding issues. It doesn't stop them from having funding issues in certain communities. One school in particular we've got called Robert Taylor Elementary. It's in downtown Henderson. Because of the zip code it's in, it's tied to a fairly affluent part of Henderson, while it actually sits in one of the poorest parts. So where it's got a huge free and reduced lunch population, it's a one-star school, it suffers from a variety of challenges. It doesn't get any of the funding that any comparable school to it would get. And that's just because it's tied to a zip code that doesn't actually represent the school population. Making sure that those kids have the resources they need, I think is a big issue for the district.
Press it till the screen.
There we go. All right. There we go. Technology challenge. And on that same note, education. One of the things that we heard that education needs more money, and the governor pushed through a huge tax increase, and education actually the quality dropped. So it's not a money thing; it's an administration and policy thing. What would you like to see changed as far as that goes? And then the other thing that the hot button issue for me right now is discipline in Clark County School District. Clark County School District has the highest expulsion rate, highest suspension rate in the country. I'm currently in a fight with them because of the arbitrary way that that's done. Some schools, punish kids based on their race. Some schools do the opposite, based on their race, don't punish. It's totally arbitrary and capricious, and administrators play cop, and they've no training in that, and there's no due process within the school district. So I would like to actually propose and actually try to get some support for this, to have a citizens review board for the school district, actually statewide, have a citizens review board, just like in the police department. When a cop makes a split-second decision to shoot somebody, there's a citizens review board. When school administrators and teachers take days to make decisions, no spur of the moment, nobody looks at what they do. They have free reign. So I'd like to hear what you think about that.
Absolutely. I think one of the bills I helped co-author in the 15th session was the AB 394, the reorganization of the Clark County School District. Unfortunately, we've got a school board that every step along the way has fought tooth and nail to not be transparent, to try to put the brakes on giving parents and communities local control in their schools. I think by making sure that we have transparency, I can't tell you the number of times I and other members have requested copies of the budget from CCSD and been stonewalled. By law they're required to give that to us, yet they don't. And there's some real problems with that board. I actually would like to see some major structural changes done there that would actually allow for transparency, openness, and an ability to actually get things done that could move our educational system forward. Moving on to disciplinary, I absolutely agree. It's become too big of a problem. I've talked to several principals at multiple schools in my district and in districts across the county, and they're spending a huge amount of their time doing paperwork for disciplinary cases that they really would rather be spending that energy working with their teachers, working on things that deal with the operations of the school. I think the idea of having a body to be able to move up to review, we've got the school organizational teams that were created under AB 394 to be able to have a say in the budgeting for the school. You've already got a board right there. That might be something to look at, made up of parents, administrators, teachers, and staff, who could review the decision there, and then potentially from there appeal to something that would be countywide or statewide.
Lena Ocasio.
I think the battery might be dying.
Lena Ocasio. Do you support school choice and the educational savings account? And if you don't, then how do you expect single parents like myself to put their children in schools that don't have the problems like some of them do in CCSD?
Well, I do, and I've got a voting record to prove it, because I did support those reforms. And I'd say with the issues that we have with the Clark County School District, you know, we've got fantastic educators, we've got fantastic principals, we've got great people in there. And I really do think that it's a cultural thing at the school board level that's causing a lot of the issues that we see. But at this point in time, we need to give parents and students every opportunity and every tool that they can possibly have to succeed. And if they can't succeed in a standard classroom, you have to give them the ability to go somewhere where they can.
Robert Foust, thank you for being here today. Seeing how we're on the school agenda, where do you stand on the transgender bathroom issue? Do you think that the state should tax and then build a third bathroom for transgenders?
You know, I believe that we need to protect everybody in our community, and it goes both ways. You know, we need to make sure that nobody is made to feel uncomfortable. If there are students of any persuasion that feel that they need special consideration made, then there's faculty bathrooms, there's other facilities that can be made available to them. But I don't believe you can make one population comfortable at the expense of another population's comfort.
Okay, I'll switch the subject a little bit. Crime in the city, it seems like it's gone skyrocket. I moved here in '94, and now we see a lot of crimes with murders and things like that. What can we do? I mean, what can we do with the illegals? And there's MS-13 gangs here. And what's your stance on illegal immigration and the crime here in the city?
Well, I'd say I definitely, you know, want to make sure that our law enforcement officers have every, you know, resource they can to keep us safe and to protect us. You know, what that is at this current time, I'd have to sit down and talk with law enforcement and find out what it is, you know, that they need, what their shortfallings are. But I do know that, you know, with MS-13, for example, there has been a crackdown on that, and obviously they've been pushing back hard, and I hope they continue doing that.
I don't have very much more. You know, the gun and the education issue were main things for me. Just for your own edification, if you want to take a look at the Facebook page, CCSD Wall of Shame, tons and tons of something I put up, but tons and tons of now people posting about issues with CCSD. I think it might be educational.
Thank you very much, and yeah, it's shameful. And then when people do try to go in and make a difference, you've got this board that actively pushes back to stop parents from being involved and from being able to make a difference in their children's lives, and that's just shameful.
Steve Sanson Jr., U.S. Army. I apologize, but we're going to go back to the school district, and I'm curious as to what you would do if elected to kind of, I guess, weed out some of the more corrupt individuals in the administration. So let's face it, there's plenty of them there. What steps you would take to kind of remove them from their implanted, entrenched position?
Well, I'd say, you know, in any organization you're going to have bad eggs. I think we've got a lot of great people. I think we've got a few bad ones that, you know, get a lot of attention. We just need good, solid procedures that if there are issues with people, that they can be brought up, reviewed, and removed. And I'll just add, sorry, a school board that's willing to take action to make sure our kids are protected.
Amen to that. So I'm going to switch to taxes. So the 2015 legislature, in my humble opinion, being a business owner, former business owner, and a key service employee of the business that I actually started when we were in our 19th year, We got hosed by your commerce tax. I know there's been some pushes to get rid of that tax. What is your stance on taxes? Because I hope there's not any new ones coming from you. And two, are you for repealing the commerce tax? Because I'm telling you that even as a 1099 employee, even though I don't meet the criteria to have to pay, I still have paperwork I have to fill out because of that. And I find that very irritating. So what's your stance on that?
I will say, I stand by my record, my votes. As far as that goes, I know I've had people talk to me about, whether or not that floor would be lowered. I absolutely would fight tooth and nail to make sure that didn't happen. And the other thing that's being presented, and I know we've all heard, is property taxes, which scares the heck out of me, because that's something that goes directly to every single person's pocketbook. And in an economy that is recovering still, the difference in that could be the difference between somebody staying in their home and not. And so I'm not going to support that.
Okay, I got Michael McDonald. I have a question, a veteran question as well. So right now we have such a high rate of veteran suicide, over 22 a day that are committing suicide. A lot of that stems from family court issues that come back from war, or said you have PTSD or a killer and are denied access to their children. We do not have much judicial oversight. If elected, would you support looking into veterans issues and for judicial oversight of like our family court judges and criminal judges making sure that they're held accountable, maybe a private panel or enacting legislation to look into these issues?
Absolutely. I mean, we need to make sure that our veterans are treated fairly. I'm proud to be the immediate past state commander for the Sons of the American Legion. So I've been close with veterans issues for several years. My dad's a former Mack infantry with the Army. When you come home, you need to be given every opportunity and every resource possible and a fair shake. And definitely, seeing some of the abuses and the mistreatment of parents and even more shamefully children in some family courtrooms, clearly something has to be done.
Any other questions?
No, I've got one more, totally unrelated.
Those can be some of the most fun ones.
So one of the other things that I'm kind of passionate about, because of the industry I'm in, is cybersecurity. And Nevada really has kind of a toothless privacy law. And I'm not very often for laws, but I'm seeing, within the businesses that I interact with, and especially the ones that aren't my clients, that have terrible record of actually protecting people's records, whether it's healthcare that we work a lot with, or just general business. What's your thought on actually potentially strengthening Nevada's cybersecurity posture, because this is an issue that's really rampant?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that today, because just a couple days ago I was actually hacked by somebody in Russia on my Instagram, of all things. Took me a couple days working with them to be able to get control of that back. And then just this morning I wasn't able to get into my email. And when I went through the recovery process there, it had attempted logins from Turkey and from Great Britain and from a variety of other places. And I'm going, this isn't just something you hear on the news, this is something that's actually at my doorstep. What the solutions are, I don't know. It's not something that I'm well versed in yet, but as it's something that's directly presented itself to me, I am working on getting more informed, and I'd definitely be interested in making sure that Nevadans are protected, whether it's on the street or on the internet.
I'd like to thank the panel for your questions today, and we'd like to give Mr. Silberkraus approximately 2 minutes to summarize why you should receive the endorsement vote from the Veterans in Politics International panel.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I would just say thank you for having me today. I know, no people agree on everything, but I think we agree on most things. I believe the veterans population in Nevada is one of the most important. We need to make sure that they, as the governor said, we want Nevada to be the most veteran-friendly state in the nation. And I'd stand behind that. I'm proud to have supported a lot of veterans legislation, both while I was in the legislature and while I've not been. I've made it the point to show up and to testify or sit in the audience and show support for legislation when I'm not on the dais. I thank you for your fair and open process. A lot of organizations out there don't necessarily do a transparent process that actually shows who the candidates are and take the time to interview all candidates. They make an arbitrary decision based on one or two people's personal relationships, and that's not okay, especially when you're purporting to represent such a large population in our community. So thank you for doing what you're doing and for being here early on a Saturday morning to sit and talk to me about all sorts of different issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silberkraus.
Thank you.